And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're going to be talking about the Washington Commanders working out a top running back prospect in Bhayshul Tuten. We're going to be talking about if this would be a good fit for the Washington Commanders if they decide to draft him. And so before we go ahead and jump into the content for today, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin and a lot of other receivers for many touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. So make sure you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the hot topic of the day. This comes via Commanders Wire, and just saying that the Commanders showing interest in former Virginia Tech star, and they are talking about Bhayshul Tuten, running back out of Virginia Tech. And so it looks like that he did have a private workout with Anthony Lynn in Blacksburg, Virginia. He also talked about the fact that they did lunch, and then they also did a Zoom meeting. You can listen to this if you go to that article. It's Grant and Danny. He was talking on their radio show about this. And so in looking at Tuten and just what type of player he is, and so if you're not familiar with him, I mean, this guy definitely had some highlights this last season, and he certainly looks pretty spectacular when you look at the highlight clips and you look at the tape. And so the first thing that you have to love about him is the speed, because he was the fastest running back at the NFL Combine. He ran a 4.3 40, so just blazing speed, and he was very good in high school. I believe he was a very good track and field athlete as well. And so it seems that that is point number one. That speed really translates, I think, into the football field. You can see that with his highlights, his ability to get into the open field, his burst, man, once he's gone, he is gone. And so next up, I think the other measurables were pretty good too as well. He did a 40.5 vertical jump. He also did a 10-10 broad jump, and then he had a 4.41 shuttle as well, so not bad there. So I think that, just across the board, pretty good with the metrics that you're seeing from the combine. And then, I think when you turn on the highlights, you look at the tapes, I think the first thing that really just kind of jumps off the tape is just the fact that he has the ability to really make a one cut and then he's gone. I think that once he really figures out where he's going to go and he decides to hit that opening, he's gone. Like, I loved his one cut. It just really suggests that if you get him maybe into a zone type of scheme and kind of block that up, I think that this is going to be the type of guy that can definitely make some defenses pay, because he can get to the second level in a hurry. And then next up, I think the next thing that was really good about what I saw with him is this. I like this balance. I think that there were a lot of times where he would run into the back of linemen, kind of run in the trash, and he would figure out a way to stay on balance and then still be able to maintain the speed to kind of get into his running gait or whatnot. Sometimes you see that with players. They run into, a little bit of the trash, or they run into the back of somebody, and essentially it kind of throws them off and they can never get back to their, their top speed. And so I think that I saw that with Tuten. He had the ability to kind of get hit, and then he's able to kind of turn it back on. So I think that that is another plus with him. And then next, I liked his hands. I think that when you look at just his productivity as just a pass catcher, on the highlight clips, the tapes, whatnot, he definitely shows a player that could be really good in the screen game. I think that, like, if you put him into the offense that we run, you put him into those bubble screens, you get him onto those swing screens and kind of get him into some wheel routes and things like that, it looks like a player that can win. I think that he showed that he could really catch the football over his shoulder. He showed like one play where, his quarterback's under duress, kind of in a scramble drill. He was able to kind of get behind the defender, raise his hand, and then make the catch as well. And so that ability suggests a player that can definitely come out and be at least a third down impact. And then when you look at his numbers, I think statistically, those speak for itself as well, because I think that he got progressively better. You're looking at a player that started at North Carolina A&T, the Aggies there, and he went from 37 carries to 215 yards and 3 touchdowns in year one. Then he went up to 208 carries, over 1,000 yards. He had 1,363 yards, and his average went up as well to 6.6. And he had 13 touchdowns, along with a 70-yard was his longest run. And then the productivity, it kind of dipped a little bit once he came over to Virginia Tech. But the touchdowns were there. He had 10 touchdowns. He had 863 yards on 173 attempts, 5 yards a carry. And then this last season, he took off again. He had 183 carries, 1,159 yards, 6.3 was his average, and 15 touchdowns, which was his best. And I think the added bonus with him is here's a guy that can get it done in the special teams because he was very good in the kickoff game. In fact, 2021, he had 330 yards in 18 attempts there. But in 2023, when he first came over to Virginia Tech, he had 19 attempts, 550 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This last season, he only had 3 attempts for 71 yards. And so that is another reason why I think you would like Tuten, because here's a player that if he doesn't figure it out necessarily as a running back from day one, he certainly can be he's a special teams guy. I think he's a guy that he can help your team that way. And we've talked about this before. Special teams is like an X factor. And so that type of speed into the special teams game, like I think that he can, you could put him back there for the punt return, who knows, but he definitely showed that he has the kickoff ability. And so I like that with the fact that, look, you can maybe bring him along slowly as a running back and he can get it that way. And so the issues here is that he really had trouble fumbling or with fumbles actually. And so that is one of the things that is talked about in his NFL draft profile and just some of the other places that I've looked, is that he struggled with the fumbles. And so that is certainly not good, especially just looking at that last game the Washington Commanders had against the Philadelphia Eagles, just thinking about the turnovers. Like, you cannot have that, especially at the next level. And then, I think another thing with him that they talk about is just he would have to get better as a pass blocker. But that, it doesn't necessarily, I think, kind of scare me away as far as going out to go get him. I think that every running back, honestly, that's coming up to the next level is going to have to improve in that game. Even if you're a solid pass blocker from a technique standpoint, you're still going to have to get it at the NFL level because they're going to hit you with some complex type of defenses and schemes. So you're going to have to be able to adjust to that. And then you're going to have to be able to adjust to the different types of moves and then the power that you're going to see at the NFL level. And so I'm not sure that you're necessarily going to get a running back that is just ready to go as a pass blocker. And so that is another thing. And then lastly, they talk about him and just having to probably get better as far as his routes and things like that as a receiver. But again, I think that I saw enough that really just shows a player that could be an impact, I think, from day one. But I mean, in the NFL draft Buzz profile, they have him as a day 3 prospect, and just talking about the fact that his ceiling is really high. So if he can get to that ceiling and everything clicks, he would be a running back that could be an RB1 type of player. And when I think of an NFL comparison to a running back in the day, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Michael Turner that used to play for the Atlanta Falcons, a player that started off with the Chargers and then he went over to the Falcons and had some very productive years. I think he had 3 1,000-yard campaigns there, and he also had multiple campaigns where he had many touchdowns. He had 17 in 2008. He had 10 in 09. He had 12 and 10. And 2011, he had 11. And then 2012, he had 10 as well. And so a very productive running back. And I think that is what I see with Tuten. Once he puts it all together, it's going to be a player that can have a very productive career. I just don't know if he's initially going to be ready to be an RB type of 1 player out of the gates. And so anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. Do you think that maybe the Washington Commanders would go out and they would take Bhayshul Tuten with one of their draft selections? Do you feel like he would be a good fit for the Washington Commanders? Or do you think that they would go elsewhere? Remember, he did do a private workout with the Washington Commanders, and he's talking about with Anthony Lynn in that interview. So make sure you get over to that article. You can go in there and you can also click what he said in that radio show. And so, as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.